Today I'm going to show you how to use the quick selection tool in Photoshop, along with a couple other keyboard shortcuts that will be helpful for other pieces that you make. So let's get started. So first we need an image to work with. So I'm going to go to my handy Google Images. I'm going to find a good quality picture of something cool like an astronaut. So typically when I'm looking for images in Google, if it's not something that I took myself, then I'm trying to find quality. So usually it gives you a little preview if you hover your mouse over each image, and it'll show you the pixel size for each image. So anything like above 500 is typically pretty good. This one, if you see 252 by 263, that's pretty tiny. So if I click on it, it's not going to be the best quality, it's going to be that size. All right, so I'm going to click on this one that's pretty good, 3000 whatever. That's going to be a good size, nice and crisp quality. Another thing, to keep the quality of the picture, instead of dragging this to my desktop, I don't want to do that because usually it downsizes the quality of the image. So I usually click on View Image, and then it'll open it up in a separate window. And then that's when I can either drag to my desktop or I can right click and say Save Image, and then I'll just keep it labeled astronaut and then click Save. Alright, and now he's saved. Next I'm going to go back to Google Images. I need to find a background that I want to put him in. So I'm going to type in space. And I want to put him in something cool. So let's see, something cool, something cool. Ooh, this looks pretty neat. So again, looking at the pixel size, again, another 3001, that's pretty awesome. So I'm going to click View Image. And I don't want puppies, so I'm going to go X out of that. And how about this one? Ooh. That looks pretty cool. So I'm going to right click and say Save Image, space. Again, labeling your photos with what they are is very helpful, so you know, you remember what your pictures are that you're using. Okay, now that I have two images that I want to work with, I'm going to open up Photoshop right here. I'm going to say Open, and I'm going to go to my desktop because that's where I saved my pictures. Another good thing to remember is where you're saving your pictures. It could be under Desktop, Documents, Downloads, whatever your preference is. It's also good to make a folder so you can keep all your project files all in one place. So first I'm going to open up Space because that's going to be my background. Cool. Alright, now you see over here this is my layers panel. So I have my first layer back here, so only one layer. Next, I want my little space dude in here too, so I'm going to go up to File, Place Embedded. Now I'm going to get my astronaut, and I'm going to click Place. Cool. And then I'm going to hit Enter to place him. If I wanted to make him bigger or smaller, keyboard shortcut, that's good to know. I can press Command T, and that'll get my box back around him. And then if I press and hold Shift, and then drag my mouse from the corner in or out, it'll increase or decrease the size of my picture. Okay, so I'm going to hit Enter again to place him. And now let's get started. So I'm glad that this happened. So when I placed him, this little itty bitty gray box popped up. That means that this is a smart object, which simply means that I can't edit it yet. Okay, so I'm going to go up to Layer at the top and Rasterize and Layer. So by doing this, if I'm rasterizing the layer, it becomes a regular layer that I can actually edit. If I don't do this, then I won't be able to quick select and delete the background and edit the layer. So I rasterize the layer. Now if you look back over at your layer, that little gray box is gone. So it won't happen with every picture, but if you do see that gray box, or if you try to use your quick selection tool and it says it can't delete the background, then you'll know why. So now for the quick selection tool. If you want to edit your picture, you can go through your typical photo editing adjustments, image adjustments, and edit the picture. I just want to show you how to use your quick selection tool. So that tool is going to be the fourth tool down. Now, right now I have my magic wand tool selected. If I click and hold, I get my quick selection. All right. So this tool is going to help with just selecting the astronaut, and I want to select just him, not the background. All right. So as you can see, the brush that I have selected, it has a little plus sign on it. If I look at the top on the left toolbar, you'll see the regular quick selection tool, a plus quick selection tool, and a minus quick selection tool. Anything that I want to keep, I usually use my plus tool because you're adding your selection what you want. The minus, if you say you were selecting part of your image and then you accidentally grab something that you didn't want, you could go up to your minus quick selection tool and then deselect what you don't want by just pretty much that you're painting with this tool. Okay, you're just brushing over what you want and what you don't want. Also, my brush is kind of big right now. Just like if you're using a paintbrush, your square bracket key is next to your P key on your keyboard. If you press the left bracket key, it'll make your brush smaller. Your right bracket key will make your brush bigger. So right now I want to make my brush smaller. And I also want to zoom in so I can see more of the detail of my astronaut. So again, another keyboard shortcut, Command plus will zoom in, Command minus will zoom out. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Again, I'm going to go back to my plus tool because I want to select the astronaut. So I'm just going to get every part of the astronaut that I can, that I see. And it might not be a perfect selection. No. But I'm going to just brush over what I want. So, looking pretty good. And almost there. Okay. And again, if I zoom in, Command plus, I can see more closely what I have selected. So if I want to get rid of this little spot here because I accidentally grabbed part of the background, I'm going to go back to my minus quick selection tool and I'm going to deselect that area because I don't want that. Okay, and just for this purpose that looks pretty good. If you want to be a little bit more detailed with it, you can. I might go back and get my plus and just select that part. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now one way to double check your work to see what you have selected is by going up to Select and Mask. So I'm going to click on Select and Mask, and actually I'm going to click Cancel. So I don't want to see the background right now, I just want to see him, and right now the background's a little distracting. So I'm going to press on my visibility of my background layer so that goes away. Now I'm going to go back to Select and Mask, and it'll show me what I have selected. Now I can bring up the transparency of the image just to show me part of the background so I can see more of the selection. So if I bring that down, it'll bring back more of the background of the image. Now, selection looks pretty good around the edges. If I wanted to clean it up, under edge detection is going to get more of your finer details, especially if you're working with like a portrait and you wanted to get more of like the wisps of hair or any details like that. I would bring up my radius on edge detection, and it's going to get more of those finer details. Under global refinements, if I wanted to smooth my selection, I could smooth that up. If it looks a little choppy, I can feather it. Now again, I don't bring these up too much because then it starts to look a little weird. So I just do a little bit just to see how it looks. Contrast, that'll sharpen your edges. Shift edge, if I bring it to the left, it'll actually bring the selection in and cut some stuff off. If I bring it to the right, it'll grab more of the background. Okay, so smoothing again smooths the edges, feathering softens the edges, and then contrast will sharpen your edges. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to click OK. Now, when I click OK, it looks like nothing happened, but something did happen. I just did all those refinements. So now, with my selection, I'm going to go up to Select. I want to delete the background. So if I just did everything that I did and just press delete, it's going to delete the astronaut because that's what I have selected. Command Z will undo that. And I want to select the background, so I'm going to go up to Select, Inverse. Now that I inversed my selection, the background is now selected. And then I press Delete, and now it's just my little astronaut. The little marching ants that you see around the astronaut in the background, to get rid of that, to deselect, is Command D. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my Move/Select tool up here in my toolbar. I'm going to check the background back in, and now my little astronaut is in space. Woohoo! All right. Again, if I want to move him, if I want to rotate him, I can press Command T. And then I can move my little guy around, rotate him around, and I can also resize him. Now, if I just drag a corner and to resize him, I can stretch him out, and it's going to look a little weird. So I'm going to undo that, Command Z. And if you want to undo a couple times, Command Option Z will go back a couple times. So just be careful. Now, to keep everything in proportion, I'm always going to press Shift, press and hold Shift, and then while I'm holding Shift, I'm going to drag my astronaut in and out so nothing stretches and gets weird. Okay, so he looks pretty good. I'm going to click Enter, and there he is. All right. Now, if I want to get more funky with it, and I want to make a reversed image of him, so I want to make a copy. To make a copy of a layer while making sure the layer is selected, I'm going to press Command J. Now I have no idea why it's J. J makes no sense to me. But now I have two of these little astronaut dudes. They're chilling in space now. And then if I wanted to flip him with the right layer selected, make sure that you know which one you're working on. I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, and then Flip Vertical. And now I have two twin space dudes chilling. All right. So again, I can make as many copies as I want by pressing Command J. So now I have so many dudes chilling in space. All right. And this just gets kind of fun. Again, you can use these tools. These are just essentials, but the more you know, the more you can play around. So it can be pretty cool. Now, another thing I wanted to show you is working with your opacities and your blend modes. So making sure I know what layer I'm on, I'm going to play with this guy. You can also double click and rename your layers. So if I wanted to rename my astronauts by a certain layer, like labels, I could do that, and that might help to organize your layers. So I'm going to work with this guy. And if I wanted to blend him more in with space, I could click on opacity and turn my opacity down if I wanted him to blend more with space to be see-through. I could also click on these blend modes where it says normal. If I click down, now these aren't all going to look good. It's going to depend on the picture that you're using. But if I click darken, now he's going to disappear. If I click on multiply, you can kind of see him. Color burn, you can go through all of these and see what they do. Screen, and now you can see if I zoom in, Command plus, if I zoom into this guy, now you can see space through him, and it's a cool filter. Just like Instagram has filters, like this has some cool filters, obviously more fancy. That was pretty cool. Color dodge, okay, so it's bringing out more of the colors. If I want to see this guy just by himself, I can just make all those other layers invisible, and that actually looks pretty cool. And again, if I want to make him bigger, Command T will get that box around him, pressing and holding Shift, and then dragging out the layer to make him nice and big, and then hitting Enter. So I think that looks pretty neat. If there are any things that you want to get rid of on that layer, you can always erase things. So I can go over to my eraser tool here, and I'm going to click on it. And now this is a super big eraser right now. So if I just clicked it, he'd erase. Command Z, again, will undo. Making my brush smaller by pressing the left square bracket key next to the P key. And Up here, just like if you're painting, there are brushes to paint with. Also with the eraser, if you want a soft edge, so it's not so harsh when you erase a line, you can get a nice soft edge. If you want it to be more crisp of an erase, you can get a more hard edge, okay? So say I wanted to, I don't know, erase this little thing here because I don't know what that is. It's just part of a suit. I can just go in and erase it. I can also go to the opacity of the brush. So if I didn't want it to go away completely, I could turn the opacity of the brush down, and then I could just simply fade out something, okay? So if I wanted to just undo what I just did multiple times, Command Z will only go back once. So if I press Command Z again, it's going to go back to what I just did. Command Option and Z, if I press Command Option and Z multiple times, it'll go back multiple times to what I had before, okay? So let's see. We went over the Quick Selection tool, Select and Mask, duplicating layers, flipping layers. We went over how to rotate, Command T, and then when you see that little curvy arrow around the box, you can rotate him. And adding in a background. You can add in as many layers as you want and play with your blend modes, your opacity. One last thing that I will show you. When you're playing with images in Photoshop, I'm going to play with this little guy, maybe change up his color. So I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments. If I wanted to bring up his brightness and contrast, contrast is going to bring more of his coloring out. If I wanted to darken him, I could bring the contrast down. That looks pretty cool. If I wanted to turn down his brightness, I could do that. Bring him up, I could do that. I think that looks pretty good. Click OK. Image Adjustments is going to be your home base for, again, all your editing needs for your photos. If I wanted to make it black and white, I could. If I wanted to change up the color, I could use that. Hue and saturation is pretty neat. I usually use this a lot with my photos. So if I wanted to play around with the astronaut's colors, as you can see, his colors of his suit are changing based on how I'm changing the hue. If I wanted to increase the saturation, aka his color, if I wanted to make him more vibrant, I could do that. Or if I wanted to make him just black and white, I could do that. I could darken him, I could lighten him. I can also click on Colorize, which is super cool. And Colorize, I know it's hard to see with this filter that I'm using, but it'll just make the astronaut one color. So if I bring up the saturation all the way and then go through these different hues, you can see that he's changing with just one color. If I uncheck Colorize, it'll keep different colors, and I can increase saturation, and it'll keep different colors for him. So again, if you want to work with many colors for your layer, you can do that. If you click Colorize, it'll just work with one color. That looks pretty cool. All right, so basic editing tools in Photoshop. Again, if you use these tools and you practice and practice, you can achieve a lot. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to go up to File, Save As, and then I will title it Space Dude. Oop, Dude. And again, saving to wherever you want to is important. So I usually save to my desktop. And then you want to save with the Photoshop format. When you upload to the internet, if you want to save it as a JPEG, which is a typical picture file, JPEGs are fine. Those are picture files that you can also save to your phone if you get the app for SharePoint and OneDrive. But if you upload to me just as a project file, then keep it as Photoshop. And then I would click Save, and then OK. And now he's saved. Now, one last thing I want to show you. If I wanted to just save this guy just as himself without the background, say I wanted to put him in another piece and just keep him without the background. One way to know that a picture doesn't have a background is by seeing this checkered box. Okay, if it has a fill in it, then there's going to be a background. But if it has the checkered background, then you're just gonna have the guy saved by himself, okay? And then you can place him in whatever file, and it's just gonna be him, no background. So if I want to save him this way, I can go up to File, Save As, and then I can keep Space Dude and then just change the format to PNG. So PNG, this file type means that it's going to save without the background, so then I don't need to worry about going back and opening this up and then quick selecting and deleting the background from him again. So if I click Save, compression, I don't want to compress it, so I'm just going to click None, and then I'll click OK. So now, if I go File, New, if it opens. There we go. It's a little slow. And I'm just going to open up a standard default Photoshop size file. Click Create. So now I have this, this blank canvas. So I know that there's a background here, and then I want to place that space guy into this background. So I'm going to click File, Place Embedded. Click on my Space Dude PNG, click Place, and now he is there without a background. And then I can move him around and do what I want with him as a new file. Okay? So that's all for today. Thank you guys, and I hope to see some cool things from your projects. Bye.